Let me ask you guys a question. Who here on this call has ever brought somebody to an event or invited somebody to an opportunity call, and after they had some questions, had some objections, and you did not know exactly what to say, and they just threw you off guard? Drop a 777 in the chat if that has ever happened to you. And if that hasn't happened to you, then maybe you signed up yesterday, because that happens to everybody, especially in the beginning. Chat box about to explode. And so that's normal. That's definitely normal. And when it comes to objections, guys, there are two places that you will get objections. Number one, you might get objections during the invite, when you're inviting somebody, when you're reaching out to somebody, when you're trying to share the opportunity with somebody before they see the information. Now, let me be the one to tell you, if no one has told you yet, if you are getting any types of objections before somebody sees the presentation, that is a sign. A red siren should be going off in your head that I'm probably saying too much, because the whole point is to be the preview to the movie when you're inviting. So if you're getting a ton of objections right away, unless it's a very, 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 very skeptical person, then that's normal. But typically speaking, if you're getting a lot of objections immediately before they even see the information, it's happening to you over and over and over again, a red flashing siren should be going off in your head right now that, okay, I'm probably saying way too much. I need to, cut some stuff out so I could be the preview to the movie. Now, the second main place that you're going to be getting objections, which is what we're really focusing on today, is obviously after the presentation. But can I be completely honest with you guys? Let me be completely honest with you guys. I don't get 90% of the objections that most people get, because there's good presenters and then there's great presenters, and good presenters can effectively communicate the information during the presentation. Now, a great presenter, there's somebody who actually handles the objections during the presentation. So when I'm presenting, guys, I'm knocking out the main objections right before I even get to the point where after the presentation that they start asking me these questions. You know what I'm saying? So when people say, hey, I got this objection, I get that objection, how do you handle that? Answer is, most of the time I don't even get these objections because of the way that I'm presenting. While I understand the main objections, and I'm knocking those out during the presentation so that it doesn't even happen to me. However, of course, you're still going to get objections, and we're going to talk about that today. So the first thing I want to talk about, guys, is there are 5 main objections. Now, in this business specifically, there are 5 things that I hear every single day. And when you're in this business long enough, it's like, you just hear the same silly questions and objections over and over and over and over again. So it's so easy to handle because you've dealt with it a million times before. So if you know what those main ones are, then that's all you're going to get. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be getting the same ones. And once you can handle those main ones, then you're good, right? And so let me give you those top 5 real quick. Number one of the main objections that I get is, I don't have the time. Number 2 is, I don't have the money. Number 3 is, sounds like a pyramid scheme. Number 4 is, oh, why don't I just go learn that on YouTube? And then number 5 is, I want to think about it, or I want to do some research. If you guys have got those objections before, one of them or all of them, drop a 222 in the chat. Let's hear it. Let's see it. I mean, those are the main things I hear every single day. So if you could handle those 5, you don't need a million different, objections or questions. That's it. If you can handle those 5, then you're good 90% of the time. You're good. So let me give you guys 3 steps to effectively handle any objection. Doesn't matter what it is or where it is. There are 3 main steps that I use. And if you use these, then you will be unstoppable. So number 1 is, you need to be aware of the smoke screen objection. When people say, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, usually that's not true, right? Usually the first objection is not the real objection. When I say smokescreen objection, understand the first objection is not usually the real objection. Really, what they're doing is it's just the easy thing to say. It's the first thing that comes to their mind, and it's something that they know will not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's something that is, non-confrontational, right? It's just the easy thing to say. So if someone says, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, sometimes, yes, that is their real objection. And I'm going to tell you guys how to handle that. But guys, understand that the first objection, 80% of the time, is not the real objection. And so you're going to have to dig deeper. Now, so you might be thinking, well, what is the real objection if they're telling me, isn't the real objection? It really comes down to either A, somebody doesn't believe that it's real. Somebody doesn't believe that, what it is that we have is real or true. Or B, it comes down to they see that it works and they know that it works, but they don't think that it can work for them. They don't have that belief in themselves. Think about it. If somebody knew the power of I Am Academy and they 100% knew for a fact that they would be successful in it, why wouldn't they join? So it all comes down to certainty. I'm going to tell you guys what to say here in a minute, but let me be real with you guys. Another reason why I don't get 90% of the objections that other people get is because of my energy. It's because of my certainty, right? I always talk about the law of state transference. Whatever energy you have will be reciprocated to you. So when I'm speaking with massive certainty, 100% certainty and confidence, that whenever there's a relationship between two people, whoever's more certain persuades the other person every single time. Right. So I'm going to tell you guys what to say, but understand it's not really what you say, it's how you're saying it. Right. So number one is be aware of the smokescreen objection. The first objection is not typically the real objection. It's just the easy thing to say. Wow. Think about it. Someone might not want to say, hey, this is, someone might not want to say, rather than saying, hey, you know what, that sounds like a scam, right? It's easier for them to say, oh, let me just think about it. Or, hey, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, because it's non-confrontational. It's just the easy thing to say. So number one, be aware of the smokescreen objection. The first objection is not typically the real objection. Now, number two, this is key. You have to clarify the objection. How can you handle the real objection if you do not know what it really is? So I ask questions to create clarity. And one of the most powerful questions that you can ask is, what do you mean by that? If somebody says, hey, Cruiser, I don't have the money to get started, do they mean that they don't have the money today, but they get paid tomorrow and they're ready to sign up tomorrow? Do they mean that they have the money, but they have it in cash and they just need to put it in their bank? Do they mean that they're just not interested, and rather than saying that, they're just trying to be nice and they're just saying, I don't have the money? So you can't handle the objection unless you know what it really is. So clarity is power. How do you create clarity? How do you do that? Very powerful question is, okay, what exactly do you mean by that? Because the more specific that you can get them to be, then you can handle that objection. You have to know the enemy to defeat the enemy. So that's number two. Now, number three is the way that I like to handle objections, guys, is I like to tell stories. The reason why I like to tell stories is because facts tell, stories sell. The reason why I like to tell stories is because people think in stories. It's a game of relatability. People can relate when it comes to stories. So let's say I show the plan to Bob, and Bob's like, I'm super excited about it, whatever he says. And he's like, I just don't have the time. All right. Well, then I would say something along the lines of, you could tell your own story, or you could tell someone else's story. You could say, hey, listen, I would say, hey, listen, I completely understand where you're coming from, but let me tell you the story about, one of my best friends and business partners. His name's Christian Borgia, right? When he got started, he was the busiest person that I knew at his age, right? He was going to college, studying to become an anesthesiologist while being a straight A student, while working full-time as a nurse, while being a bodybuilder, while personally training multiple different clients online, while having an online business, and he got started doing this literally an hour a day. He was doing this on his lunch break, and within X amount of months, he was able to get blah, 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 this result. And so that's one of the best ways to handle objections is to tell stories, because stories create that relatability. And when people can relate and they're like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it too. Does that make sense? Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. That's the best way to handle any objections, is tell stories. Or tell your own story, right? When I got involved in this industry, I had to sell my computer to get started. It was like $600 to get started in that company. And so, you know, if someone ever says that I don't have the money, then I could tell them the story of how, hey, I didn't have the money, but I ended up, you know, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way or you make a way, right? I literally sold stuff to get started, and that, boom, led me to find out about this, which led me to, you know, become financially free, right? So facts tell, stories sell. Now, now that we kind of understand the three main steps to, you know, really handle objections, which is be aware of the smokescreen objection. Number 2 is to clarify the objection to create clarity. And number 3 is to tell stories. I'm going to kind of go into each of the 5 main objections in detail, so you know exactly what to say, and you will never be confused on what you should be saying ever again. So let's talk about time, right? If somebody says, hey, Cruiser, I don't have the time, what am I going to do? In my head, I'm thinking, okay, is this the real objection, or is this the smokescreen objection, right? So I might say something along the lines of, okay, gotcha, bro. So time is the only thing that's holding you back from getting started today, right? If you had the time like today, you would get started for sure right now, right? And then they'll be like, well, and then they'll lead you on to the real objection, then you can handle that if that's not the real one. But assuming they say yes, like that's it. The next thing that I'll do is I'll say, hey, well, what's your schedule like right now? And then boom, they'll give me their schedule. They'll say, hey, I'm working from 9 to 5. I'm doing this. I got gym. I got blah, blah, blah. And then from there, right after they clearly have time, because everybody has an hour a day, a handful of days a week. Nobody on the planet can't make the time for this. Then I'll say, hey, listen, the best part about what we do is we could fit it around your schedule. Why? Like when we say that this is part-time, I think of part-time as 20, 30 hours a week at a part-time job. But the reality is this is spare time. Most people are hopping on an hour a day, you know, a handful of days a week when they're brand new. I like to compare it to the gym, right? If you go to the gym an hour a day, a handful of days a week, you are moving in the right direction. You're going to see results. You're going to, you know, be set up for success. And this business is the exact same thing. So if I could help you put together a schedule that wouldn't interfere with what you have going on right now, would you be ready to get started right now? Boom. That's how I would deal with I don't have the time, if time was the real objection and was not just something that they said to just kind of throw out there, right? So that's number 1. Now let's talk about money. If somebody says I don't have the money to get started, then I might say, hey, listen, so gotcha. So money's the only thing that's holding you back from getting started today. Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. Perfect. Then I'll say, hey, listen, when do you get paid next? So we can help you get started then. Today is Thursday. Most people get paid on Fridays, right? So by the way, that's another tip, is like, I like to go through my follow-ups around Thursdays, Fridays, because I understand that most people are getting paid on Friday, right? And so I'll say, hey, perfect. When do you get paid next? So we can help you get started then. They might say, oh, if it's within a few days, then perfect. Just get them started that day when they get paid next. But if they're like, oh man, a couple weeks, or hey, next month, or I've had people say, yeah, I'm going to get started, you know, next year, right? Then at that point in time, here's what I say. I'll say, hey, listen, I know that you want to start whenever they said, hey, I know that you want to start next month. I understand. But our goal is to plug you into our Score in 24 system. What does that mean? What that means is our goal is to basically have you plug in and profit within your first 24 to 72 hours by copying our professional traders' trades. And so I know a month might not seem like a long time, but in the trading world, in this space, the amount of, you know, stuff that you can learn in a month, you would be absolutely shocked, and you definitely don't want to miss out. So if we can get you plugged in and get you results relatively quickly, could we get creative and find a way to help you get started as soon as possible? And then you can kind of get creative with that person. Like I said myself, I literally sold stuff to get started, right? Whether it's, I sold my computer, credit card, right? Whether it's borrowing the money, it's $235, bro. Like it's not, it's literally $235. It's not that much money. So that's what I would do. Now, one really important note on this as well is while somebody is waiting to come up with the money to get started, or if someone's just waiting for any reason at all, a big mistake that I see a lot of people make is, let's say Bob says he's getting started next Friday, and it's Thursday right now. What you don't want to do is not hit up Bob until next Friday, right? Because he loses his excitement. He loses his interest. So you want to keep that person engaged. So for me, what I like to do is just bam fam to the next exposure. Bam fam stands for book a meeting from a meeting. So basically, while this person's waiting to get paid, I'm going to set up other different types of exposures, whether that's inviting them to an event or having him hop on a three-way call or watching one of the recordings from the DCX free trial, whatever it is, to make sure that that person is interested, that person is engaged every single, well, not necessarily every single day, but as much as possible, all the way up until boom, that day that he gets started, to make sure that we keep his excitement. Does that make sense, family? Okay. I see a lot of people like, yeah, man, I'm gonna get started next Friday. You don't talk to them until next Friday, and by the time next Friday comes around, boom, excitement gone. Okay, let's move on. So next, we have the pyramid scheme objection. Now, this is something that you need to know. There are two types of negative people, and I'm not really sure what to call them, so I'm going to just kind of label them like this. Number one is the negative no matter what type of person, and number two is the uneducated but willing to learn type of person. Let me give you an example. If somebody says, sounds like a pyramid scheme, right? There are some people that are negative no matter what. So there's educating and there's convincing. You want to see yourself as an educator. You want to see yourself as a counselor. You want to see yourself as someone who's giving somebody else guidance and education to help them make the correct decision to see if this is a good fit for them. But the moment that you find yourself convincing, the moment that you find yourself, bro, if I have to convince somebody to get involved in crypto, to get involved in this academy, they're just not the right person, right? And so the negative, no matter what type of person, if you convince someone to join, you're going to have to convince them to show up. You're going to have to convince them to work. And I don't know about you guys, but I am not a professional babysitter, right? So the negative, no matter what types of people, I'm running away from those people as quickly as I can. I see people spending too much time trying to convince rather than to educate and just move on. So the next person is the uneducated but willing to learn. So there's a lot of people that just, like parrots, just kind of repeat stuff that they've heard from somebody else, but they just don't know what they don't know, and they're willing to learn. And so those are the types of people that you could sit down and actually educate. So if someone says, hey, sounds like a pyramid scheme, I'll say, hey, well, what do you mean by that? What did I say earlier, guys? Clarity, 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 clarity. What do you mean by that? Like, what's your definition of a pyramid scheme? You know what's crazy? 9 out of 10, it's probably more than that, but 9 out of 10 people that I asked that question to do not know the answer. The sad thing is there's 110 people on this call. There's probably a lot of people that don't know the answer to that either that are on the call. And so you need to know that. So, because once they realize that they don't know what they don't know, then they're going to be open to be educated, right? So once they realize that they don't know, then boom, I'll say, hey, well, number one, an illegal pyramid scheme is illegal. We've been around for over a decade. We have over 300,000 students in 100 plus countries. So obviously what we have is very reputable, number one. Number two is in a pyramid scheme, there's no product or service being exchanged for money. Obviously, we just went over the value, the education, the live trading sessions, the trades being sent to you, the academies. Number three, in a pyramid scheme is you cannot make more money than the person at the top. And our referral program doesn't work like that. You can actually pass people. The more productive that you are, the more money that you're going to make. And the funny part is 80% of people in the company are just here to trade anyway. So they don't even refer people anyway. So it's completely irrelevant. And so that's it. Though that's how I deal with that objection, that question when I get it, is I ask them what's their definition. Hey, what do you mean by that? When they don't know, because 90+% of the time they're not going to know, then boom, now you can educate them. And from there, you can have a intelligent conversation and see if that makes sense to them, then boom, they'll move on and get started. So that is that. So next, let's move on to YouTube University, right? So why can't I just learn that on YouTube, right? So yeah, so a couple reasons. By the way, you don't have to use all these reasons, just use whichever ones make sense to you. I'm going to just throw a couple out there. So number one is I'll say, hey, well, when you don't know what you don't know, you don't even know what to look up or where to start. I've never really met someone who's had crazy success off of YouTube, like crazy trading success off of YouTube. I just haven't. So that's one reason. It's like when you don't know what you don't know, how you don't even know where to start, right? Number two is that 90% of people who trade in general, not in our academy, but in general, fail. So I see so many people learn different types of things on YouTube, and then now not only and they're learning the wrong things. So now it's not just, hey, like just jump in this academy and learn. Now they have to unlearn the wrong things before they can relearn the right things. And you end up spending time and money that you would not have had you had the academy. So that's number two. And then number three, this is a big one too, is the information online is controlled. What does that mean? What that means is I give the example of school. So in school, the public education school system, the information is obviously controlled. They don't teach you about happiness, health, and wealth, the most important parts of life, the most important subjects. The information is controlled. In that same way, the major players in the foreign exchange market, the banks, they move 90% of the market. So what do? They put out basic patterns, basic informations for retail traders, small traders, people like us, to take advantage of that. So we're set up for failure. And so I always break down the fact that our academy teaches institutional trading, how to trade with the banks rather than against the banks. And those are a couple of reasons why I say, hey, that's why you can't. I mean, you can learn, go ahead, go for it if you really want to, right? But that's why I wouldn't suggest it. That's why it didn't make sense to learn on YouTube for me. And another thing that I would say at the end is, I would say this. Here's a question that you could ask. I could say, you don't really want to trade off of YouTube. I think what you really want is to save time and money, which makes sense. Would you agree with that? Yes, of course. The answer, no one's going to say no to that. And then they would say yes. And I'll say, listen, I believe that this academy will help you save the most money, save the most time, and help you become profitable faster than anything else. And you just can't shortcut the shortcut. The academy is the shortcut.
Oh my God, what happened to me? Headphones just today?
But yeah, so let me make sure everyone's muted. 1 second. Boom. But yeah, let me go over that again. So after you kind of give them some of those things that I just said, hey, I don't think you really want to learn. I don't think you really want to trade off of YouTube. I think that what you really actually want is to save time or money. Is that fair with that? Do you agree with that? Yes. Well, listen, I believe that this academy will help you save the most time, save the most money, and become profitable faster than anything else. And you can't shortcut the shortcut. This academy is the shortcut. So boom, that is how I knock that out. Last but not least is let me think about it. And when someone says, let me think about it, I'll say something along the lines of like, of course, like what part are you still thinking about? Because again, that's not specific. We have to clarify. And once they give you the real objection, then boom, you can handle it. Another thing is very similar to let me think about it is let me do my research. I want to do my own research. Now, a couple things on this. You have to be aware of the different types of personalities. So for myself, there are 4 main types of personalities. This is a whole hour-long training that I do, but there are sharks, whales, dolphins, and urchins. I happen to be an urchin, and an urchin is an analytical person. It is a detail-oriented person. It is somebody that needs to know everything about anything before they get started. And so if you try to close an urchin on the spot, if you try to, hard close somebody like that, you're going to rub them the wrong way and they're going to join somebody else. And you're not, that's another thing too, is you got to know when to, get someone started right away and when to just, book that next exposure, book that next meeting. Guys, only 20% of people are going to get started like on the spot. 80+% of people are going to get started the second, third, fourth exposure. It took me 10 months of different types of exposures before I ended up getting started. Okay. So I'm speaking from experience. And if someone says, hey, I want to research, and they seem like that, they're asking a billion different questions, then what I like to do is I like to give them stuff to research. So for example, if someone's interested in DCX, if they're interested in crypto, then what I'll do is I'll send them, maybe 1 or 2 of the recordings from the DCX free trial. Because if someone does their own research, only God knows what they're going to look up, right? So what I like to do is, boom, I have different types of things that I like to send people. So I give them stuff to research, and it's like,
could you say that again? Sorry.
Siri's tripping. So I like to, basically give them stuff to research. So I know, what they're looking at. And you're basically essentially setting up another exposure. Let me type something in the chat for you guys. Yeah, no, Siri was tripping. All right. Multiple different types of exposures times speed equals success. What does that mean? I want to show different types of exposures to people. This is more of a following up now, but they kind of go hand in hand. But multiple different types of exposures. So if I have somebody come to, a one-on-one meeting, maybe I'm going to invite them to a big event. If I invite them to a big event, maybe I want to have a one-on-one meeting personally with my mentor and them afterwards, which is a lot more personal. One thing I like to do is I like to use the DCX free trials as an extra exposure. Another thing that I like to do is I'll give people what I call a free trial. I'll say, hey, listen, this academy is for members only, but I know when you see the value in the education, when you actually get to see the live sessions, that you'll be ready to get started. So let's do this. I'm gonna allow you to just jump on one live session with me so you can see it. And of course, when they jump on a live session with you and they see people making money, they see people learning together, they see people growing together, they're gonna want to get started. I only do that 1 or 2 times. After that, obviously, they're just taking advantage, right? But that's another different type of exposure. Will this recording be posted in the chats or YouTube? Both. And so that is how I deal with that. And 2 things I want to tell you guys really quick, and then we'll close this thing out. One is, remember, I was saying, hey, it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. It's your energy, it's your vibe that you're giving off, right? And I talked about, certainty and how it all comes down to your certainty level. Now, I forgot to say what not to do. I told you what to do, but I didn't tell you what not to do. So I want to mention that here really quick. What I see a lot of people do is when somebody gives you an objection, you naturally get defensive, right? And when you naturally get defensive, then it makes you look guilty, essentially, right? And so someone says, is this a pyramid scheme? And then you just freak out. No, it's not a pyramid scheme. Like freaking out, right? And so anytime I get an objection, something that it's facts, like you're laughing in the chat box, but it's true. People do that every day. Like they freak out on people, right? And so here's what I do. I'll say something along the lines of, yo, I'm really glad that you said that. Like, let's get that out of the way right now. They're expecting to throw you off, right? But when you are firm in your energy, when you're grounded in your own energy, when you're able to, draw your own state from within essentially, and there's nothing that can move you, right? Then boom, they're going to be like, oh shit, like this guy knows something that I don't know. And they're a lot more willing to listen to you, obviously. So that's one thing. And then the last thing I want to share with you guys, just a little bit of a call to action, is you want to keep a journal. So I actually have a little journal, and it's in my notes in my phone, and it's called, I think I called it like tough questions or something like that. So anytime somebody asked me a tough question that I didn't have a good answer to, I wrote it down. And so it would never, ever, 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 catch me off guard again. It might happen once, and that's fine. But after that first time, never again. And because I've kept this journal, it's just been, like I said, man, there's only so many objections that people can have. And when you actually, track this stuff, write this stuff down, you will become, you'll become bulletproof. So that is that. What time is it? 6:38. Man, I did this fast. We're good on time. Do you guys have any questions, comments, or observations on this topic of handling objections? If not, we're pretty much done. Any questions, comments, or observations? I appreciate you guys, for real. I appreciate you guys. All right, family, if you guys need me, just reach out to me on IG. One team, one dream. If you guys need anything, boom, here's my Instagram. Always here to help. If you had something that you didn't want to ask on here, shoot me a message. Who are the creator? And guys, stop falling for fake accounts, please. I only have one account. I'm never going to create another account. Please make sure that your teams are aware of fake accounts. DCX free trial recordings. It's on John Glom's YouTube. This video I will upload on my YouTube, and I'll drop it in some of the chats as well. But with that being said, guys, appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Have an amazing rest of your guys' night. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye, guys.